would be the largest operating stationary fuel cell power plant today, and are the utilities getting involved in sort of looking at some large-scale, multi-megawatt facility?
So what's the largest today in the world, and are the utilities getting involved? There are very few fuel cells on the utility side of the fence. Los Angeles Department of Water and Power has been the most proactive in the early years of the technology, going back about 7 years ago, to deploy. Just a few days ago, the California Public Utilities Commission approved projects that have been proposed by Southern California Edison and Pacific Gas and Electric, each of them for deploying 3 1-megawatt power plants. That has yet to be worked through the respective funding, but it's evidence of the utilities coming now to the Commission asking for support and their growing interest in that fuel cell technology. On your first question, Ed, the largest deployment today, well, let me just say that most of the deployments are 300 kilowatts to 1.5 megawatts. At the Sierra Nevada Brewery, it's 1 megawatt. At the Westin Hotel in San Francisco, it's 1 megawatt. At the Sheraton Hotel in San Diego, right here, it's 1.5 megawatts. So all around 1 to 1.5 megawatts. Wastewater treatment plants are now starting to deploy 2.4 megawatt systems, so those projects are now being installed. But the largest today installed in the world is in Korea, a fuel cell energy product at 5.6 megawatts.
I had heard that President Obama had cut the fuel cell funds by like 67%. Did they reinstate any of that?
The question or the comment is that President Obama cut the fuel cell funds. We don't know to what extent it was President Obama. It was certainly the Department of Energy Secretary Stephen Chu who took $100 million out of the budget for fuel cells. A couple of key points. Those are for automobile fuel cells. The stationary fuel cells remains in the budget and very well funded. But as a result of his announcement, which is almost to the day a year ago, when you think about it, is that during the summer, members of Congress reacted with the support of the industry, the stakeholders, to reverse that decision, and those monies were put back into the budget. From my point of view, it was a very sad day when he made that statement, because it sent a political message that we're not interested in that future. If you listen to the hearings, he said we're interested in the future, but it's a little bit further off. But $100 million is a very small amount of money. And all they had to do is retain that. The vast majority of the investment is being borne for private funds with the OEMs and the energy companies. And that small political advocacy is a key to maintain. When he pulled that away, it did send a shockwave through the stakeholders. However, on the silver lining, the stakeholders rallied like we've never seen before and developed almost a political action committee, our group, that is starting to match what we see from the battery community. And I think that balance is very important, because both of these technologies are critical to the future. They can't be sniping at one another. They have to be supporting one another. They're very not only complementary, they really need one another. So there were some nice aspects that came out of that, and it was reinstated. I thought you had your hand up earlier, and we'll conclude with this one. Yes, sir.
Okay. A lot of these distributed generation applications really depend on policy decisions, regulations, and things like that to encourage the use of this technology. What efforts are being done with respect to your group to help in that area, to get those policies sort of coordinated so that you encourage it rather than discourage it?
The comment is that to really move out distributed generation, policy needs to be addressed, and what are we doing to try to affect that? California is the living laboratory for the world with respect to energy and the environment. It really comes out of its activity with automobiles going back to the early 60s, 1963. But also, if you look at that decade, there was controls on electric power generation as well. Other parts of the country that are becoming very active in this area are the Northeast, especially New York. Texas has some activity, Ohio, Colorado as well. But policy is very critical to this new paradigm of distributed generation. And it's been a rough toll to get to this point. What we have done, in part, is in 2001 to establish the California Station Fuel Cell Collaborative with the Air Resources Board. It's a unique activity made up of the agencies of the country who have some role in fuel cells. At the federal level, the DOD, the DOE, the EPA, NASA as examples. At the state level, ARB, California Energy Commission, California Public Utilities Commission, the Department of General Services as examples, and then regional agencies such as the South Coast Air Quality Management District. These are agencies that are either regulating or developing the technology or actually acquiring the technology. And what the collaborative does is to bring them together twice a year in Sacramento to spend 2 days talking about what it is with respect to policy, with respect to this new paradigm that we need to address, whether it's technology, whether it's purchase, whether it's new regulation. And that's been remarkably successful. It's a California Stationary Fuel Cell Collaborative. In the last 2 years, to get directly to your question, there have been these remarkable bills passed through the California legislature that today will allow net metering with a feed-in tariff that is competitive for fuel cells. It's been there for a while for a foot of a take, but that's a paradigm shift. So fuel cells today can now net meter. What that means, if you have the fuel cell here at Torrey Pines, you can actually port some of your electricity out to the grid and get a fair return to that. That really helps on the overall economics on balancing the use of the fuel cells. That's critical. And there's a new bill that was passed in October that will incentivize that even further if you're using biogas to operate the fuel cell. So after working on this for many years, all of a sudden, this is starting to take off. And then California is nicely serving as a beacon to other states and other countries in the world to be able to follow suit and break free this constraint of policy that we've experienced to date. Well, let's conclude at that point. I think, Jan, is this a good time? All right, thank you so very much.